If you're anything like me, then winning Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments is a common occurrence for you. Now, I'm only kidding about that, of course, but nowadays I feel that it's gotten a bit too easy to show up to any tournament, play the best deck of the format, and walk away with a respectable top 4 placing or better. Although winning is fun, I wanted to put myself to the test and see how well I could do with the less common strategies in the game. If you're new to the channel, my name is Tcg Sam, and I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh competitively for over 6 years now. I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh content creator that makes content on the competitive side of the game, and in this series, I'm going to be challenging myself to win a tournament with pretty much anything except the best decks out there. I'll be adding in extra challenges to make it even more interesting for you to watch. Will I be able to outperform the best decks at these tournaments? Or have I just thrown away any hope I had of ever winning a tournament again? Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
If you didn't catch what happened last time, things did not go so well for us with our Charlotte deck. So this time around, I decided to try another old favorite, but with a challenging twist. We're going to be on a budget. Why? Because I just like to make things more difficult for myself. Anyways, that means we're not going to be able to play any semi-expensive staples like Triple Tactics Talents, Infinite Impermanence, or Evenly Matched. So without these big power cards, what are we actually going to be able to do this format? I decided there'd be no better deck to do this with than with Virtual World. There are some distinct benefits to playing Virtual World in this tier-infested format. Right off the bat, the Virtual World cards don't lose to the Bystials, since there are no key, light, or dark monsters that we put into the graveyard. In addition, the Virtual World monsters also don't lose to Tearlament's Happiness, since all the effects resolve in the hand, and the monsters that we end on, usually, aside from the exception of Zolkin and Beatrice, won't ever use their effects on turn 1. That means the Bystial cards and Tearlament's Happiness that comprise of about a quarter of the Ishizu Tear deck and are pretty much all the hand traps the Ishizu Tears play aside from Kelbeck, means that our combo is usually going to be able to go through successfully. So what sorts of end boards do we try to end on? Using Ultimate Zolkin to summon Crystal Wing, then using Muddy Mud Dragon to make it invoke Caliga. Pair that with a Virtual World Gate Chuche, and you've got quite a formidable board that's difficult for any deck out there to break. Another great benefit is that this end board is not as easy to be broken with the decline of Dark Ruler. That's one less card that we have to worry about, since Dark Ruler isn't that good against Tearlaments, and a lot of people have cut it from their side deck. Anyways, let's get into the list now and see how we're going to accomplish this. So getting into the deck list, it's pretty similar to the one I've uploaded a couple of weeks ago, so if you haven't checked that out and would like more detail as to why I'm playing certain cards, then be sure to do so. It's already up on my channel. But there are some key differences from the one that we recently profiled. So right off the bat, we are playing 2 copies of Small World. So with the budget version, we don't have access to consistency cards like Pot of Prosperity, which would normally be incredibly powerful since it lets us essentially guarantee us to be able to see a name. So I figured Small World was sort of the next best thing. It's similar to Foolish Burial Goods, except that it actually doesn't lose to the Ishizu Shufflers, since if we play Foolish Burial Goods, we're going to have to dump the Qinglong, and that could lose out to the Ishizu Shufflers. But in addition with Small World, it also makes it so we're able to not only search out those key Virtual World names in our hand, but also we can search out hand traps if our hand is already good enough. But either way, the point of the Small World is so we turn those hands with a bunch of hand traps or duplicate Virtual World names into a very powerful hand that we're going to be able to start playing with, because we're going to be able to see exactly the name that we need. Since essentially, as far as I know, any like monster can turn to like most other monsters in this deck, because the hand traps just naturally have some great bridges with the regular Virtual World cards. Speaking of the hand traps, we are playing 3 Bell, 3 Veiler, 3 Mourner, and 1 Ghost Ogre, so a total of 10 hand traps. I think this is a good amount. You want to be able to see at least 1 in your opening hand. And I think with the budget deck, it's very important to be able to at least slow down your opponent so they can't end on some incredibly strong board. And I think Bell, Veiler, and Mourner are probably some of the best budget hand traps out there right now against the Tearlament deck. Of course, Veiler should be in permanence if we had access to that, but unfortunately we don't. So we're going to be stuck with Veiler. But Bell is incredibly good because essentially can not only negate the Tear Element effects in the graveyard, but it also protects us from these Ishizu shufflers. So our Nian Nians and our Qinglongs are going to stick in the grave more often because we have a card like Ghost Bell. Ghost Mourner is also great because it not only acts as like additional copies of Veiler, but also if our opponent starts playing on our turn, if they summon like a Dragostapelia or a Kaleido Heart, we're going to be able to Ghost Mourner it and then make it so we're able to stop that from disrupting us. And then in addition, it also helps us pressure a game a lot easier because of the potential burn damage. And then finally, one copy of Ghost Ogre. This isn't great against Tear, of course, but it's pretty decent against every other deck out there. I decided to play one just because we are playing 3 copies of Emergency Teleport. I wanted Emergency Teleport to be able to have the utility to turn into a Ghost Ogre if we really needed to. But of course, against the Tear Elements matchup, we can just side it out. Moving on to the extra deck, there's a mistake in this picture. It should be a Crystal Wing in there, so I apologize for that. But aside from that, there isn't anything too special in this extra deck aside from Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. So the level 9 Dragon Synchro next to Virtual World Chen Chen. The reason I'm playing this is because we're playing Muddy Mud Dragon already. And I think that Hot Red Dragon is incredibly good against certain decks out there. It's better against like those control decks than something like Caliga is for sure. So we're also going to be able to end on a face-up like quote-unquote Omni Negate in a sense. So if our opponent does have Dark Ruler, we could essentially play around it with like chaining Chuche to Dark Ruler and then chaining Hot Red to the Dark Ruler no more. So that gives us a way to play around those power cards. But also, just perhaps most importantly, it's just an extra option as a level 9 Synchro turn 1, because there are decks which Chen Chen isn't that good against. So being able to end on a quote-unquote Omni Negate can be better than that. But yeah, I would say most of this extra deck's pretty standard. Also pretty cheap aside from like Zeus, which is great. Zeus, I think, is a necessary card to add even if you're on a budget, just because of how powerful it is and allows you to go second. So I don't think you can really cut that, but everything else is pretty cheap. Moving on to the side deck now. The top row is essentially Ghost Ogre plus like our Beatrice package. So since we have access to rank 6s, Beatrice is incredibly good in this deck. But the reason I don't main it in my extra deck is because we don't play any great targets to send game 1. So we side into cards like the Ishizu Shufflers as well as Necro Banshee against certain matchups. And these can just be really powerful because not only does Beatrice help us play around a card like Dark Ruler, but it also just means that we're able to get two like shufflers to the graveyard against like Tears, and that's if we're able to turn off like 2 of their names, then like they're rarely ever going to be able to break our board, which is really great. And then the last row, we are playing Dark Ruler. This is probably the cheapest board breaking card out there right now, aside from something like Dark Hole, right, Raigeki. But I personally like Dark Ruler just a bit more because it's really good against Sprite. We are playing Twin Twisters for the back row matchup. This is the only back row card I play. I decided not to really respect it because we do have outs in engine with a card like Chuche to Floodgates. And then finally, There Can Be Only One. We are playing a deck that doesn't really lose to it. It's slowed down a little bit by it, but against the decks like Fluanderies, which loses out to There Can Be Only One, I think it's a really worthwhile sacrifice. So yeah, that's going to do it for the deck. And without any further ado, I'm going to take you guys along with me to the tournament, and I'll show you guys how we do in our very first match. In this episode's feature match, we're going to be playing up against Ishizu Tear, definitely the best deck of the format, and I'm sure y'all are curious to see how well our Virtual World deck can do against the best deck. So what we're going to do is finish shuffling up, and then we're going to see who gets to go first. End up doing the die roll, and it turns out that our opponent's going to end up being able to win the die roll, so they're going to go first. It's quite unfortunate for us because our hand was pretty good going first. We do have 2 hand traps in our hands, so we do have the potential to actually be able to stop him. He's going to start things off with a Keldo, discarding a copy of Medora to search Kelbeck to his hand, activating the Sharon next, discarding the copy of Kelbeck, and then using the Kelbeck and the Rhino, so he's going to mill 5 from both of us. He's going to get the Rhino effect as well, discarding the Murley. He mills an Agido as well, meaning he's going to be able to mill 5 more from our deck, activating the effects of his Havness and his Scream as well. Just so much advantage, and we're not able to do that much about it. You saw in our hand, we had like a Ghost Mourner and a Ghost Spell, I believe, but that's probably not going to be enough to stop this entire play, which is just super unfortunate, but we're going to do our best here. So we're going to mill 5 more from both of our decks, and then he's going to end up resolving some of his tier effects to be able to fusion summon, summoning out a copy of Kikalos. Apologies for the glare, but that is a Kikalos. He's then going to consider using the Shirin I think, but I think he ends up just choosing to use the Kakalos, opting to save the Shirin for like a different time. I end up mortaring the Kakalos to hopefully cut him off right then and here, even though he has access to another fusion right away by overlaying the Shirin with any other level 4 for our Time Thief Redoer. So it's still going to kind of suck for us. We're not going to be able to do too much about it. He's going to activate the Redoer. Redoer is going to attach to Shirin. I end up Ghost Belling the Shirin effect. So we're able to stop that fusion effect, but I believe he still has one more fusion effect this turn he hasn't used yet, so he's still going to be able to end on some sort of interruption, which is pretty nasty for us considering we're only going to have 4 cards to play through it. Opponent's going to link the 2 off into a copy of Asa, which I didn't expect, and then Asa taking my Kirin, activating the Magnemut on his own guy, and then overlaying for Beatrice afterwards. So I didn't expect him to play Asa, so it was pretty bad that we had milled the Kirin actually, because I gave him level 6 to continue his plays with the Beatrice. He's going to end up sending a Sulliek, adding a Murley, normal summoning the Murley to mill 3. He's going to then link off the 2 for a copy of, I believe, a Elf. Elf's going to bring back the Murley just so he has a name on the field already for Tearlament Sulliek. He's going to end up setting the Sulliek from his hand, and then from there he's going to activate one of the Shufflers in the graveyard to get rid of some of our key graveyard effects like Qinglong. So he's going to put that back into our deck. He's going to put back some of his own resources as well. And then from here, we're going to have to break through quite a formidable board of Elf, Murley, Sulliek, Redoer, and a Beatrice. So I'm going to draw for turn. I draw a Ghost Bell for turn. Our opponent takes the Redoer from us. Totally okay. It's just a monster. Doesn't really do anything. He's going to do all this in standby phase to play around talents, but little does he know we actually don't have talents in the deck. But either way, he's going to activate the Beatrice in standby phase as well, attempting to send a monster from his deck to the graveyard. And I think that he makes a slight mistake here, ends up sending a Tearlament's Murley, which definitely shouldn't, because you have a Sulliek to send the Murley on the field, meaning he just gets punished by a card like Ghost Bell. And now he has to get lucky and mill Tearlament off of the effect of the Murley's bringing back off of Elf. But as you all know, with Tearlament players, they never miss. So he ends up hitting the Shirin, and it's just super unfortunate for us. If he completely whiffed there, I think we would have had a really good shot of breaking through just the Sulliek. Super unfortunate because Rukalis is an incredibly powerful card against the Virtual World strategy. There's not much we can really do about it. We activate the E-Telly in hopes of baiting it out because we do have a Lulu in our hand. I'm going to end up summoning the Lulu, and then from here, I'm thinking what I should do. I have the option to go Juju, but the problem with Juju is that he's going to be able to have the Shufflers to shuffle away all the targets I have to banish, which is a big problem. So I decided to go for Shenshen instead. At the time, like, I was thinking, oh, his Sulliek won't be able to do anything now, but I realized, like, it doesn't matter. He can just negate it and then send. It doesn't do anything. So, big mistake from my part. I don't think it would have mattered in the end. I thought about going for Zeus as well, but the problem with going for Zeus is it just forces out the Sulliek, and then afterwards I have no virtual name to target with the Lily in my hand, so there just isn't too much I can do there. I end up conceding the match, or the game. We lose game 1, unfortunately. Just a little unfortunate. Our opponent did mill well off of the Murley that he brought back off of Elf, so we weren't able to actually push through his board because of that Rukalis. It's just a bit too much for us in the end, even though we had 2 hand traps. It's just unfortunate we couldn't stop it. But anyways, moving on to game 2 now. We are going to be able to go first. I did side into the copy of Beatrice and the 2 Shufflers, and my goal is to either, if I don't end on Caliga Crystal Wing, I'm going to end on Beatrice and send the 2 Shufflers to hopefully be able to have enough to stop him. The problem with this is that if I use Beatrice, then that's definitely making me play into a card like Triple Attack's Talents, because I'm going to be using the Shufflers during his turn, and then Talents just punishes me really, really hard. I'm going to activate the Kowloon and then activate Lulu in the hand, so this is the best combo in the deck for those of you who play Virtual Worlds. Kowloon, Lulu, definitely the cards you want to see. I end up adding the Lily to my hand after sending the Qinglong. Here, it's a little unfortunate because we don't have a spell and trap in our hand. We aren't able to go for the Crystal Wing play, and I don't want to bank on drawing one off of my 1 draw from like a Charge Warrior or something. So right now I'm thinking, okay, I can't play around Nibiru unless I get lucky, and so I'm just going to go for it and hope he doesn't have the Nibiru. So what we do here is just Synchro for Shenshen right away. This is so if we do get nipped, at least we have some sort of follow-up. And then next up, we're going to synchro off the 2 for a copy of Charge Warrior, drawing a card, and then from here,
We have the copy of Lao Lao to target the Shen Shen, and then we're going to send the Shan Wu to our graveyard. Special summon back any one of our monsters. I'm deciding between if I want to summon back a 3 or 6. I think I end up not summoning anything. Okay, like looking back now, like I think I just didn't summon anything off of Lao Lao, which I think was because I wasn't going to be able to end on anything valuable anyways, even though we had a Shan Wu. So like there's no other like 6 I could have summoned. Although I think in the end, it might have been correct to summon back the Lily and then Shan Wu back something so I can summon a Wallow. And that's like guaranteeing that all 3 of his names are not going to be able to use this turn, assuming he has no way to stop the board. So slight misplay on my part. I can't remember why I didn't use the Lao Lao, but either way, we pop his Field Spell right away. Not sure if this was a mistake either, but I just really didn't want him to be able to resolve it. Although, like looking back now, it probably was okay if it resolved because it doesn't really matter if he gets a bunch of names, just because we're going to be able to stop them anyways with our shufflers theoretically. Here, after we use our shuffler, he is going to use the Talons to take. We chain the Beatrice, sending our Medora. Talons is going to take the copy of Shen Shen. And then from here, he's going to end up milling off of his Havness. Havness is going to hit another Havness, Sulliek, and a Keldo, so great mills. He doesn't have to use the Havness here because he has the Shufflers to get rid of my Medora before he even commits to something like this. It's just super unfortunate for us. He's going to resolve the Sulliek to add any Tearlaments monster from his deck to his hand. And then he's going to add the Rhino Heart. And then next up, I believe he's going to use the Keldo to force out my Medora. I do decide to chain Medora. I think there's no point of me really not chaining it because we're not going to get milled again, I think. And I think it's just better to shuffle away his shufflers just in case we do manage to live this turn. I'm going to use the Medora to put away some of his resources, put back my Stars Charge Warrior, or my Lily, remembering the Osley he had in his extra deck from game 1. He's going to summon out the copy of Shirin, I believe. And then from there, we're actually left with nothing. So now our opponent just kind of has full control of the game. We don't have anything else to stop him with other than a Veiler in our hand. And unfortunately, I don't think Veiler is going to be enough. He's going to end up dumping the copy of Havness off of the Rhino Heart. And then Havness is going to attempt to fusion summon. Havness is going to put itself in another Havness back to summon out the Kikalos. I do decide to Veiler the Kikalos here. And then hope that's somehow enough to stop him. Our opponent is going to be able to make another Redoer. He's going to be able to activate the Redoer effect, attaching the Shirin to get his last fusion effect off. Summoning out the Kaleido Heart shuffling away the Beatrice, and this is just enough for game. So we're unable to close this one out, and we do lose it 0-2, but I think we definitely had a decent showing, and we just got a bit unlucky in some of those scenarios. But otherwise, pretty great duel overall. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. And now I'm gonna move on to covering the matchups that I had. So stay tuned.
Things went a little better for us this time, and we started off the tournament hot with a 2-0 win over True Dracos. In this matchup, Shen Shen was absolutely key to victory, making it so his spells and traps were completely useless against us. Even when he was going first and resolved Demise and Diagram in the same turn, we were able to still break through the board with a combination of perfectly timed twin twisters and being able to get rid of his Inspector Border on the field by negating its effects, making it so we can finally push through and end the game. Next up, as you saw, was the feature match where we played against the Ishizu Tear. Unfortunate, we lose that one 0-2. Our deck just is it's a little difficult to keep up when they're milling 10 on their first turn and setting up all their effects, considering we have nothing great to mill in our main deck. Game 2 doesn't go that much better, even though we're able to go first. We don't have a spell or trap, unfortunately, in our hand, so we can't set up the Crystal Wing Caliga lock to lock him out of the game. So unfortunately, we have to end on just the Beatrice, and that's not enough to win the game for us. Moving on to round 3, we play against an interesting build of Branded. We managed to take that down 2-0. Not much to say about that. We had a couple of hand traps to stop his big fusion monsters, and we were able to close out the game from there. And then finally, in the last round, we play against Earth Machine. Game 1, we end up losing. He gets to go first. Even though we throw 2 hand traps at him, he still plays through them both and ends on a board that we can't break with the hand that we have. Moving on to game 2, Zombie World and the Shufflers from the extra deck came in clutch this matchup. Both of them were crucial to helping me win that game. And then game 3, a little unfortunate for our opponent. He does misplay a little, and that causes him to not be able to put out any sort of board, and we're able to take it down from there. So overall, a great end to a tournament. We ended that one 3-1. So ended with a positive record. We ended in the top 8 of the tournament, meaning that we did get some extra packs. If you guys haven't seen that video, it's either coming out after this one or it's already out. You can see what we got in those packs. But this is definitely a great result for the series. Just in the second episode with the budget deck, we're able to take down a top 8 finish. Next week, when Photon Hypernova comes out, we're going to try turning on the Jets a little bit and keeping this momentum as we pull out probably one of the craziest decks I've ever played. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to stay tuned. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.